Hello, this is Snow White with my Bigfoot Diary, Part 14. This video will cover July 2016. July 1st. The camera's been up for 9 days now. It hasn't caught any pictures of them, and the activity at the porch slowed way down, so I really don't think it's doing any good. I took it down. I also tried a feeding station, which was a basket hanging from a string, strung across the side yard and connecting to the garage. I didn't think that the Bigfoot liked it, so I took it down too. The little critters couldn't reach it, but I didn't like that setup. So down it all came, the camera and food basket. I took the camera outside, held it up, and yelled out to them that I took it down and that it was safe for them to come to the porch again. I repeated this up in front of the house. I also moved the trap to the front of the house, between the porch and the garage, and next to the trash can. July 2nd. I decided to try a new setup for the feeding basket. It's simple and unobtrusive. No other animals can reach it besides a Bigfoot. The bottom of the basket's 5 feet off the ground and nothing can reach it from the top either. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I'm glad I did. I had already had the basket up here for a little while. There was an apple in it that was getting old, so I took it around front and put it in the live trap, and I put a new one in the food basket. So as of the 2nd, at 8:50 p.m., there was an apple and a banana in the basket. I also put this little sink strainer out like the one that they gifted to me, but this one is a little bigger. I will refer to this as the little metal basket from now on. Anyway, I put a flower in it the other day and it was getting old, so I put a fresh one in it this morning. July 3rd. Well, what do you know? Something significant happened on the railing. I took the camera down, moved the basket out of the way, and something happened that hasn't happened since I put the camera up. They took something and left me something. The fresh red flower that I'd put in the basket last night was gone and replaced with a little pink flower that they'd picked from the yard. How sweet is that? You can see it there in the bottom picture. Little pink flower. Also, the red car was turned upside down. And I thought this was interesting because we got a new vehicle 4 days ago, and it just happens to be the truck that belonged to my son that got growled at and had a rock thrown when he was down on the west side not long ago. It could be a coincidence, but I'm not so sure. There you can see the car was turned over. Now this was a Sunday. Later in the afternoon I took a nap. My husband was outside working on his truck that we just got. He was in and out of the garage and house most of the time while I was sleeping. The last hour or 45 minutes he was inside watching television. He said that right after I had gone in for my nap that he heard a vocalization come from down on the east side of the property. Now this morning when I went out to pick up that little pink flower that they'd left, I also heard a weird vocalization come from that same spot. When I woke up, I went out to check the porch. At first, I didn't think that anything had happened, but then I noticed that the die had been turned over from the number 1 on the top to the 2 on the top. And as a side note, I had put that little white flower in there this morning when I took the pink flower in that they'd given me. This was so cool. Twice in one day they were up to the porch and did something. I was so glad that I took the camera down. But this wasn't all that happened. I walked around the side of the garage and looked in the food basket. The apple was gone. The banana was exactly the same. I was so excited because I knew for sure that it was a Bigfoot that took the apple. My new setup was working. I was so happy. But then I walked around to the front of the house and was completely blown away. The apple that had been in the basket since last night was now in the trap. I know this because there was only one apple in the trap last night, and now there were two. And when I checked closely, it was the same apple from the basket. This means that while I was sleeping and my husband was in and out of the garage and house, or perhaps during the time that he was watching television, they came up, turned the die over, took the apple from the basket, and moved it to the trap. This blowed both of our minds. First of all, why did they do that? To help us catch animals? Or maybe they saw me put the other apple in the trap last night and were copying me. Also, if they did it while my husband was in and out, how did he not see or hear them? We were absolutely astounded. So you can see here two apples were in the trap, and last night just one, and the trap is not set off, or else that thing in the front would be down. July 6th. What I found this morning was pretty funny. At least, I think so, that is. The man doll had been put into a very precarious position, face down, butt up in the air. The other dolls were not moved. So you can see there, kind of humorous. Don't know what that's supposed to mean, but definitely placed like that. Like I said, I'm not really sure what to make of the man doll being put into that position. Hopefully it meant nothing bad. Also, the dice were moved a little bit and the basket was moved forward a little bit. July 7th. Here's how I left things last night. There's a marble in the shell, the basket, and then the two dice. This morning the little metal basket was on the ground. The marble was taken out of the shell and was put in the middle of the porch. The dice were moved, and at the front of the house, the banana was gone from the trap, but it wasn't set off. So you see here, the dice are moved, and the shell's empty, and there's the marble, clear over in the middle of the porch. So it had to be picked up and put over there. And there's the little metal basket. July 8th. Last night I took one of the bananas from the basket and put it in the trap. It was also gone this morning without the trap being set off. I also found just the red car turned upside down. I also found this in the front yard pointing directly at the front porch, and more specifically at the chair that I usually sit in. Notice it's in that 90-degree angle again, well, close to it anyways. And there's where it is on the ground, pointing at the porch, and my chair's right up there. July 9th. Last night I took the last banana from the food basket and put it in the trap. That just left an apple in the basket. This morning the apple was gone, and I know it had to be a Bigfoot. It really makes me happy to know for sure what's taking the fruit when it disappears. The banana was gone from the trap again without it being set off. Now I wish I knew if the Bigfoot are doing this for sure, but honestly, I think they are. They have somehow figured out how not to set the trap off. I think they may be picking the whole thing up and reaching in and taking stuff out and then putting the trap back down. So you see there the apple's gone. And the banana's out of the live trap, but it's not set off. We found a blue truck to represent our new truck, and we put it with the dolls in the red car. I also put a few new things out on the railing. That is a large blue marble in the right shell. July 10th, Sunday morning. The dice were moved and the red one was on the porch. The blue truck was upside down beside the porch. Beside the bush at the corner of the garage, I found another foot impression in the grass. It is in almost the exact same spot that I found the other large foot impression. I'm thinking that a large adult is standing here where he is concealed by the bush, while a smaller one comes up to the porch. The impression measured 16 inches by 6 inches. And there you see the toes where the green arrow is pointing. And it would be a right foot. And this is the bush that the foot impression was by. And a view of that bush from the back porch. The truck on the ground. And the red dye on the porch. So we went to our meeting and came home at around 12. We did some things around the house, and then at about 2 p.m. I went out to check the porch, and whoa, there was an awesome gift waiting for me. It was a little yellow plastic ball. Now notice where they put it. It's in the shell with that blue marble that is the same size and shape as the yellow ball. And I had never seen this yellow ball before. So this was found by them and brought to me as a genuine gift. How sweet is that? I wonder where they found it and how long that they looked for it. July 11th. The only thing different on the porch this morning was that the girl doll was moved over slightly closer to the new Bigfoot doll. The weirdest thing this morning was that there were 2 raccoons in the live trap. My husband has been wondering if the Bigfoot are catching some of these animals and putting them in the trap for us, which is an interesting thought. July 12th, the only thing different was that the man doll was turned slightly towards the girl and Bigfoot dolls. The 14th. Today was pretty significant. I received a gift this morning that had very deep meaning to me. At 6:18 a.m., when I checked the porch, I found that they had gifted me another Y stick. This was significant to me because it tells me that the Y sticks definitely do have a special meaning to them. And it also told me that the Y stick that they had left in my chair on the front porch on June 23rd was definitely for me, and that it did have special meaning then as well. This really made me consider my husband's theory about them giving me these Y sticks to show me that they had accepted me into their clan. I don't know this for sure, but it does give me pause to think. Now this is how I left the railing last night on the 13th, and then this morning, the very purposefully placed gifted Y stick you see there, all the way to the left. July 16th. Today I took a walk down in the woods on the west side. What happened and what I found are in the video previous to this one entitled Sign, Knocks, and Foxes. The 17th. Sunday. When I got up this morning, nothing had happened on the porch. We went to our meeting, and this is how the porch was when we left, and then how I found it later in the day. They had taken the cat button. It was there at 9:36, and at 4:02 p.m. it was gone. Then I went back out at 7:49 p.m. and found that the die had been turned from the number 1 to the number 6. I don't know what it is about Sundays, but there seems to be a lot of activity happen then. It seems to me like they're getting a kick out of coming up to the porch during the day to see what they can get away with, and not be seen. And I have to say that they are very good at it. 18th and 19th. The only thing messed with on the porch was the blue truck. On the 18th, it was turned on its side, and on the 19th, it was moved backwards. July 20th. Nothing happened on the porch, but I noticed something of interest in the side yard by the garage. Yesterday, my husband had pulled some dead lily stems out of the flowers and threw them into the yard. Today, when I went out there and looked closely, I noticed some leaves arranged in a way that seems too contrived to have just fallen there. They're placed right beside the stems that my husband threw on the ground. Had the Bigfoot thought that my husband was making some sort of a glyph and then they wanted to add to it? This first picture is an overview of the whole area, including the stems that my husband threw into the yard. On the left there you see the flower stems, and down in the middle of the picture is the leaf arrangement. And you can see there's 3 leaves on the left and 3 leaves on the right, and they're placed at an angle to each other. This is another view of it. Now notice there are 3 leaves on each side placed at exact angles. Each set of leaves start with a turned over green leaf on the left, then in the middle of each row is a dead leaf, and then to the right is another green leaf placed right side up. They're so perfectly placed, the angle really strikes me. Okay, this is the left side of the arrangement. There's the turned over one, the dead leaf in the middle, and then the one that's right side up on the right. This is the right side of the arrangement, and again on the left you start with the upside down green leaf, in the middle is a dead leaf, and on the right is another green one turned right side up. So these are the 2 sides together, and of course it shows there's 3 leaves. There's a turned over one, a dead one, and then one on the right that's right side up in both rows. Now the ones on the top are pointing up and down. The ones on the bottom, the end leaves are pointing outwards. Now that took forethought and planning. So what are the odds on all that happening from leaves randomly falling out of the tree? I'd say not too good. July 21st. The next thing that happened was another leaf anomaly. Nothing had been moved on the railing, but there was a leaf added into the empty spot between 2 of the items. I'd put out a little star that twinkles on the railing last night, and I left it on all night. This morning, the leaf was placed right beside of that little star. It struck me that the leaf was basically the same shape as the star that had been twinkling all night. Is that a coincidence? Had the leaf fallen there? Or was it placed there to show that they had noticed the similarities in the shape of the star and the leaf? There's no way to know for sure, but here are the photos. So last night there was the empty spot, and this morning the leaf placed directly in the empty spot. What are the odds on that falling right there beside that star? Now these odd things happening with leaves over the last 2 days made me remember something that happened back on June 24th. I wasn't sure at the time if it was something that just randomly happened or if a Bigfoot had done it, even though it did seem a bit strange to me at the time. but that's why I took a picture of it. Sometimes things strike me as odd, but I'm not sure about them, and then later something happens that makes it all make sense. And this is one of those times. On the 24th, I found a leaf covering one of the Bigfoot dolls. It was the older one, and it just seemed a little too specifically placed to have just fallen there, but I wasn't sure. Now that there has been a lot of other weird leaf stuff happening, it doesn't seem so random after all. So here's a picture of the leaf covering the Bigfoot on the 24th. July 23rd. I checked the porch at 7:25 a.m. I was surprised to find that they had returned the cat button during the night. They had taken it on the 17th, so they had it for 6 days. It was kind of funny where they put it when they brought it back. They put it in the little metal basket behind that orange ball that was in it. See, they have it leaning up against the orange ball. And this is another view of it. I also found another curious leaf arrangement. This time it was way in the backyard on the bench. It was just two little leaves, but they were placed dead center in the bench and in what seemed to be in an artful sort of way. So you see they were right in the middle of the bench. And see how they kind of look artfully placed. And again, you can see it's right in the middle of the bench. This evening I was walking around the yard taking some pictures. I walked to the top of the hill out back, and I was walking back down the hill and I heard a loud bark come from down in the west side. It wasn't a fox, and it was too loud to be a dog. It only happened once. I think it was a Bigfoot. Also, one night last week we were sitting in the living room. I was sitting in front of the window where the air conditioner is, and we heard something hit what we think was the air conditioner really hard and loud. I looked out there and I didn't see a thing. We still aren't sure what it was. We hear a lot of odd sounds and vocalizations that I don't always mention in the diary. Like I remember back when this interaction all began, we heard something hit the house a couple of times right outside our bedroom window above us on the wall where we slept. Another time, I was standing at the kitchen sink with the window open. It was dark out, and from what sounded like it was only maybe 5 or 10 feet from the window, I heard this real general sounding woo, and I will never forget it. It felt like they were saying hi to me or something. July 24th. Last night I had put a little tiny shell out on the railing, and at some point between then and 12:12 p.m. today, it was taken. And as a side note, it was never returned. And that was all that happened on the 24th. The top picture shows the shell, and then the bottom picture shows that it was gone. July 28th. Nothing has happened over the last 3 days. Today I decided to make them a personal gift of a little flower arrangement. It took me quite a while to get it just right, and I put it together out on the back porch. I picked a few things from my garden to put in it. And here's what the flower arrangement looked like. July 29th, 8:20 a.m. The first thing that I noticed as I approached the porch was something large on the railing. When I got out there, I saw that it was one of the daylily stems that had been laying in the yard. Now, why had they put it there on the railing? Because they had taken one of the flowers out of the arrangement that I had made for them. I believe that they left me the stem to acknowledge my gift and the effort that I had put in to make them something nice. So what we're looking at here is the stem that they put on the railing, and nothing else was touched. It was definitely put there for me to find. It's pretty obvious. It was like they just had to do something to let me know that they appreciated my gift. I wonder if they had been watching me make that arrangement, because it took me quite a while. And I stood right there at the railing and did it, put it all together. So there's what it looked like yesterday, and as you can see, the one flower that was to the right in the little basket's gone. So I looked over at the edge of the yard, and I noticed what looked like a big foot had stepped into the tall grass there. See there, shaped just, it's a foot impression. I made another little arrangement from some things in the yard. I was looking around for stuff, and I came across a little feather, and I thought, perfect. So I put it in the arrangement as the main gift. There you can see it, and notice that I put the end of it down through the hole so that it wouldn't blow out. The 30th, which was a Saturday. It was raining really hard in the morning when I got up, so I didn't get a chance to check the porch right away. But when I finally did, I was really pleased to see that the feather was gone. So apparently it was a big hit. I don't think that the feather blew away because I had stuck it pretty securely into one of the holes like I had shown you just a minute ago. The little metal basket that the arrangement was in was turned and moved forward also. And in addition to this, the little cat button and the piece of shell were moved a little bit. So you see there that everything was moved forward, but I looked everywhere for the feather and it was nowhere. So I took what was left of the flower arrangement and I tossed it away. I planned on making a new one later on. My husband mowed the yard and it looked really nice, so I thought I'd go out and help clean it up and do some yard work. It was really hot, so when I got done, I was pretty tired, so I took a shower and I laid down. I fell asleep. My husband came in and woke me up and told me that he had heard some kind of grunting sounds coming from over in the weeds at the side yard. So he went out to sit on the front porch swing to listen. Then he heard more grunting sounds coming from back there at the side yard around by the back porch and weeds. So he went through the house and out the back porch. And when he got out there, he found another yellow ball in that little metal basket. So he thought he should come and wake me up and tell me what was going on. I went out to look, and sure enough, there was another little yellow ball. I had never seen it before, so I have no idea where they found it. The first yellow ball that they had left me on July 10th was hard plastic. This one was like a Nerf ball. I found out later that it was one of the balls that people use as a Nerf bullet for whatever purpose, I don't know, but anyways, it was a really cool gift. And this happened again while I was taking a nap, so I swear they know when I'm napping. You see the yellow ball there, and isn't that cool? July 31st. There was nothing changed on the porch this morning. At 6:54 p.m., I decided to make another flower arrangement, and I put a little white bow in it made from ribbon that I had. So this is how I left it at the time. Notice there are the two dice there too. So after a while, I walked to the top of the hill to watch the sunset. It was approximately 8:25 p.m. My husband had been sitting on the front porch, but walked up to tell me that he was hearing something going on over in the side yard again. Some kind of weird sounds. When he came up to tell me, he had walked around the opposite side of the house from where the sounds were coming from. I walked back down with him and we walked by that area but didn't see anything. We went to the front porch for a few minutes and were discussing the situation. I told him that I had made that bow but forgot to check to see if it was still there when we walked through. So I walked back there to check it and it was gone. I couldn't find it anywhere. So the time was now 8:51. So between 6:54 and 8:51, they came to the porch and took that bow. So there you see the times that I took the two pictures, and it was there at 6:54 and gone at 8:59. Now I thought that was pretty wild, but it is starting to become par for the course on Sundays. But I was pretty stoked. We went to the front porch for a few minutes, and then I decided to walk back to the corner of the yard and take a few more pictures. It was a really great night for taking pictures. I was behind the shed and pine tree at the very edge and corner of the yard. I couldn't really see the back porch from there, but it was no more than, I'd say, 50 feet away. I took this picture that we're looking at, and then I walked back over to the porch. When I got to the porch, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The die that was sitting to the right had been turned from the number 3 facing forward to the number 4 facing forward. And this happened within 8 minutes because it was 8:59 when I took the next picture. So this tells me two things. They had to be very close to be able to do this that fast and without me seeing them. And they had to be right there in the weeds watching us. I have been suspecting that they have been hanging out in there, and I think my husband must have heard them when they were taking the white bow. It also tells me that they are liking to live a little dangerously, seeing what they can get away with, playing a little game, I think. So you see at 8:51 at the top how the dice were, and at 8:59 when I took the next picture, it was turned to the 4 facing forward. That blew my mind. They did it right under my nose. So that brings it into July. It was interesting to say the least, and I want to thank you for your support.